we're gonna bring up your next speaker. That's gonna be the wonderful, magnificent Chris James.
If you talk about how much you hate your fat, your body has been working all this time to keep you alive. I don't think anybody in my circle understands impossible. So are you guys stuck in Stall City? You've been fasting, eating clean, maybe doing everything right by the standards you've been taught, but for some reason the scale is just not moving. What you might need to do is temporarily cut your fats, right? You want to upregulate how much high water content fruits you're eating, and that's going to give you that natural sugar, which is going to reset the metabolism, reignite the fat loss, give your body a ton of energy, and guess what? Tonight we're going to be talking about just that topic. So if you guys want to learn more, stay tuned. Now, in 2004, there was a study done by the American Journal Clinic Nutrition, which found that high-fat diets can reduce insulin sensitivity, right? This is going to make fat burning more difficult. So by consuming hydrating fruits like watermelon, oranges, they are going to actually increase the volume. You can eat more of it because it's low calorie, but then it's also going to increase your how sated you are. So what's the truth about fats when we're fasting? Well, many people actually hit a plateau while they're on their weight loss journey because they unknowingly consume too much fats. We actually just talked about this in our DR96 private call where, people were asking, hey, can we have nuts? Can we have peanuts, cashews, whatever? Here's the thing. There is a ton of calories in like a cup of cashews, for example, way more than what you might think is actually there. And so without understanding, the impact that the foods are having on us, we can go overboard. We can overeat very easily. This is the reason why we push high water content fruit, because it's extremely, basically virtually impossible to overeat on these things. When you overeat on these things, it just means you're going to be going to the bathroom more frequently, which is, probably a good thing, because as you're fasting and you're dumping all this toxicity into your elimination pathways, you really want the gut motility and the bowels moving. You want to get stuff out. You want to irrigate the system. The more clean you can keep the system, the less detox symptoms you experience, the less plateaus you have to worry about, and the better overall experience you have because you're not going to have the detox symptoms. Research shows that even small increases in dietary fats can disrupt the rate at which stored fat is burned in fasted states. So we're using fasting as a tool to help us burn stored fat, but by increasing or by consuming too much fat, it actually disrupts the body's ability to eliminate that fat. It's still going to do it, right? You fasting, you're going to lose weight, but then, here's the thing, if we're not fasting long enough, because remember, when you fast at levels. If you're not fasting long enough to get to a certain level or maybe lose enough weight to where you're seeing the scale move, then when you start to refeed, you're eating too much fat. Now you're seeing that weight come back on and you're basically staying like this. Okay, you're just constantly balancing the scale, which is not what we want to see. Also, high-fat diets increase the after-meal triglycerides, which can blunt fat oxidation and lead to energy storage instead of burning fat. So once again, fat is not the enemy per se. It's just when we abuse it, when we don't really understand it, it can cause us problems, and we don't even know that it is the problem. Now, when we think about sugar, we think about candy bars, we think about gummy worms, things of that nature. High water content fruits, although they are sweet, the way that the body interacts with the sugar from a fruit is very different from processed sugar, okay? It's not the same thing. So by using, high water content fruits to trigger fat loss, you're going to restore energy, you're going to reset insulin sensitivity, because the body actually uses completely different pathways to metabolize that sugar versus, like from a Diet Coke or something like that. And so we see drastically different outcomes when we use sugar. So when we look at whole fruit consumption, it's been linked to reduced body weight and overall improved insulin sensitivity. In 2021, a review in Nutrients reviewed that sugars, fructose, in whole fruit form, don't raise the blood sugar the way that added sugars do when we talk about what's found in the Snickers bar. It's due to their fiber content and their water content. There's also elements that when you have food in a whole food format, you're getting a complete package, the way that nature intended, okay? So when we start pulling things apart and processing things, we don't think about how our body digests that stuff differently. And then, of course, when we talk about ultra-processed stuff, the body can't digest it. That's the problem. That's the reason why we're gaining weight in the first place. It's like at first you think you're fine because you can go years without really seeing any problems, but slowly but surely the redundancies and the processes the body has to take care of this food product, this food stuff that's not really helping, eventually the body loses its pace and it's not able to keep up with, just constantly getting this crazy synthetic crap or the stuff that's nutriently void, right? Like it's not getting what it needs and it's getting something that's gunking up the system. So eventually the body's gonna start to break down. Insulin sensitivity actually might be the hidden key to reigniting your weight loss, because your body's insulin response is going to be a big reason why you're stuck or why you gain weight in the first place. When you start to fast, like we mentioned earlier, especially if you're using fruit when you refeed and proper food sequencing, you're going to see the body become insulin sensitive again versus insulin resistant. And once you do that, it's like going back to when you were a child. And that's the reason why when we are younger, we can eat all these crazy things and we're still seeing benefit, because we haven't developed insulin resistance yet. So by getting insulin sensitive again through fasting and proper dietary habits, it makes it easier for us to burn fat and lose weight, just like when we were children. All right, so insulin resistance is one of the leading causes of weight loss plateaus, especially in obese individuals. Intermittent fasting and high fiber fruit intake both increase insulin sensitivity, which is going to reduce oxidative stress and improve glucose uptake. So we're going to get more out of what it is that we're consuming over time when we combine or stack fasting with, eating whole foods, right? Specifically fruits in this case. Now, there's this myth that, you can fast too much. And I get this question a lot. People always ask me, Chris, how long can I do this strategy? We just did our DR96 call, and I had a couple of people ask, hey, I love this. We're losing tons of weight. I mean, people are losing, the first week, people are losing anywhere from, I'll probably say 15 to 30 pounds is what we probably saw tonight. And so people are like, they're excited. They're like, I want to keep going, Chris. I feel good. Low detox symptoms. Can we keep going with this? And I always tell you can do it indefinitely. Like the programs that we put together, I can't speak for anybody else or anyone else's programs, but the programs that we put together, you guys can fast on these things, indefinitely, because they always incorporate refeeding into that process. So once again, when you look at fasting as the fast, the preparation, the fast itself, and the refeed, when you look at that cycle, you could keep doing that, because as you fast, you become more sensitive, which is what we're talking about, insulin sensitivity. We want that. You become more sensitive, and if you're putting good things in, with that increased sensitivity, the body is getting nutrients that it hasn't gotten for who knows how long. So you're actually going to be more balanced than if you were eating every day but eating the wrong foods. Hopefully that all makes sense. Now, the Journal of Clinical Investigation back in 1997 showed that prolonged fasting with proper nutrition or refeeding can actually decrease thyroid hormones, reducing metabolism and increasing your fat loss, your hormonal balance, and just basically a whole regulating of the system. With strategic refeeding, what you're able to do is prevent metabolic slowdowns. Okay, so this is going to help keep weight loss sustainable. One of the things that we always talk about is we got the fast that we're going to do right now to help like chunk the weight off. We want to get the weight off. If you got 100 pounds to lose, we don't really want to do this slowly, okay? Because let's be honest, we live in the microwave generation. People are not very patient. So if we can get the weight off as quickly as possible while also being safe and effective, then we can worry about maintenance after the fact. But by building in a proper refeed into all of your big fasts, even if you're chunking the weight off, you're slowly conditioning yourself how to eat when you're not fasting. And then one of the things that we saw, especially on this challenge, a lot of people are talking about, oh, I'm craving the fruits, I'm craving the vegetables, I'm craving the good things, and also my diet, my overall desire to eat is down. So when you have a lower desire to eat and you're craving healthy things, tell me how much easier it is to maintain your weight loss once you've made this. Because like what makes weight loss difficult is not the fact that you can't do it, the body's not built for it. It's the fact that you can't stop eating the stuff that's harming you the most, that's causing you to hold on to the weight, that's causing you to gain the weight in the first place, like the cravings. So being able to get rid of the cravings, being able to put the bag of chips down, being able to say, okay, I'm done. That's enough nuts for now. That is an ability that we have seemingly lost, but we can regain it through fasting. Now, I see a lot of demonization of fruits, especially by very popular doctors. We've been demonizing fruits for too long, but there is a reason why the mainstream narrative is to demonize fruits. The reality is watermelon, oranges, grapes, we're talking high water content fruits can actually give the body the glucose it needs to fuel the metabolism, which is going to support healing. This is going to accelerate your weight loss. Okay, so you gotta use it strategically, but if you do, the things they're telling you to stay away from are actually the things that are going to give you the most benefit. Now, me personally, I'm like, that makes sense to me why the narrative is stay away from fruit. If fruit can actually help you accelerate healing, accelerate weight loss, feel better, hydrate the body, look younger, but they have a whole industry built on you looking old, aging, falling, breaking something, being sick and diseased and needing a prescription, why would they tell you to eat fruit? You got to understand that the news outlets, Google, none of these companies have any, there's no mandate for them to tell you the truth. There's no bureau. There's nothing to say, hey, this is true. Hey, this is not true. Okay. It's just presented in a format that we believe is true, but no one said that these were the scientific facts or this information was undisputed. The thing about it is they want you to believe that there's such a thing as a scientific consensus, and that's not a real thing. There's no consensus in science, okay? The thing about scientists today that really they irk me is the scientific method is all about disproving your own theory. What I see is people coming up with their theories and then working backwards to prove their theory. That's not how the scientific method works. So the fact that we don't scrutinize these ideas and these consensus is proof enough to say, hey, something probably not right here, because that's not how science works. Now, if you guys are on a plateau, the question is, how can you safely and effectively and quickly get away from that plateau, but also be able to maintain and have sustainable results? Well, number one, we got to look at what it is you're doing. Okay, so if you're fasting, cool. What kind of fasting are you doing? Are you doing OMAD? Are you doing intermittent fasting? A lot of times people are doing these very short fasts. They're not fasting long enough. I recommend a minimum of a 3-day water fast to really start to see what fasting is all about. Anything less than that is going to cause a lot of room for error. The 3-day fast, there's still room for error, of course, but it limits that. Meaning if you're fasting 3 days at a time, and let's say that you're doing it once or even twice a week, the amount of time in between your fasts is so limited, even if you're doing the wrong things, it'll have a minimum impact. Now, while you're doing the wrong things, you can actually take that time to learn how your body responds to the wrong things. And once you become very familiar with how your body responds to the wrong things, you'll automatically know when you're doing the right things, right? Because your experience is going to change. So it's not a waste of time even to do the wrong things, as long as we're learning from it, we're observing. We got to be tapped in. You guys want to be journaling. Once you get familiar with how your body responds to eating a cup of nuts coming off of a fast, do you get backed up, right? Like if you're used to seeing a bowel movement after the fast, you have a cup of nuts and now you're not moving your bowels, you know what that thing just did to you. Or if you're, let's say you're eating a nice fat steak or whatever coming off of a fast, and you're not seeing elimination within a couple of hours, you already know what it is, okay? Now do the other side. If you do another 3-day fast and then do your high water content fruit. See what it's like coming off doing, a whole watermelon or, some oranges or a fruit salad or whatever it is you want to do. So many different fruit options. See how the body responds. Do you get acid reflux? Do you get really tired? What are you experiencing? Compare and contrast the different experiences, and then that will help you build out what makes sense for you. Now, if you're doing longer fasts, You can get away with doing this stuff without truly understanding it, and you'll still progress forward. So sometimes that's just the solution. Sometimes you don't know what's going on. You just need to fast longer. Or you can increase the intensity of the fast by switching from juice to water or water to dry. All right, so now we get into the realm of dry fasting. You can still do 3 days, but because dry fasting is a little bit more effective than water, you're going to get more out of that 3 days than you would versus if you were doing 3 days of water. So there's many different tools at our disposal that we could use to help jumpstart the weight loss. Now, once you get the needle moving, you'll notice that the weight starts coming off more consistently because also the mental block is gone. See, there's different elements to this whole thing. There may have been something physically going on where you're like, bro, I'm not losing weight. What's going on? But then you start to believe you can't lose weight anymore. And then that becomes a mental block. So even if you change, you start doing the right things, sometimes that mental block is still there, which will slow down your progress. So if you use something like dry fasting, it's almost like a ram that you could just break the door open with, and then you start losing weight and you're like, oh, I believe I could do it again. And sometimes that's more important than the physical things. So here's what I want you guys to do. You're stalled. You've been losing weight. Let's say you've still got another 50 pounds you need to lose, but you're stalled. I want you to look at your diet closely. All right, let's just remove all the excess fat, or let's monitor how much fat we're intaking, right? Do some research. Find out how many calories is in the fat that you do take in, and let's reduce that to a minimum amount. Because sometimes you might be taking 1,000 calories of fat, and you're not even realizing because you're eating nuts, something healthy, but it's just too much fat. So let's take a very close look at what we eat. Make sure that you cut out all of the snacking. Gotta stop snacking, because even if you're not eating a ton of the wrong thing, if you're eating it consistently, that will also cause you to hold on to weight. Let's switch as much to fruit as we can. Remember, fruits being the ovaries of a plant. It doesn't have to be sweet fruit, similar to like a bell pepper is not sweet fruit. It's sweet, but it's not sweet, like sugary sweet, or a zucchini or a squash, or a cucumber. Those are all great options. But then if you want something like a tart cherry, right? Tart cherries are great for people who are diabetics, people who are on high blood pressure, on different medications, things of that nature. You can use tart cherries, but also you can have oranges. You can have grapes. If you don't have that mental block there, you can have watermelon. So let's start eating more of that stuff. Let's get our water intake up, right? Make sure that you're having your glass of lemon water first thing in the morning. So let's start using infused water as a tool. Let's stay away from the fats. Let's get rid of the meats and the dairy products just for now, okay? Let's get off this plateau. Then once we start to understand our body a little bit better, here's another thing y'all could do. Move the bowels. Get yourself a castor pack. Get yourself maybe some of the LifeWave SP6 patches. That'll help to suppress the appetite. It'll also help to upregulate the endocrine system and move the bowels. And if you use tools like that, along with getting rid of the fats, and then let's challenge ourselves on our fasting a little bit more, right? So now once you start fasting, let's say you typically do juice, or let's say you typically do intermittent fasting. Let's either switch to water, or let's go from intermittent fasting to like at least a 48-hour fast. But really, like I'm saying, a 3-day fast. Or if you guys are doing 48-hour water fast right now, switch to a 48-hour dry fast. Like, let's just take it up one more notch. Once we get that needle to move, then it's like, boom, we'll start to see, it's kind of like a snowball effect. All right. If you guys need more help with this, make sure you join our community, www.ahacommunities.com. And we've got different tools, guides, things that are available for you all. Hopefully you guys learned something good from this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. And as always, the application of knowledge is power. And I'll see you all next time.